Here, make
B94. He's not my coach, he's a Lone Ranger, making decisions on his own. He's my favorite coach, he's the Lone Ranger, securing the win for the black and gold. He does not care if the fans are fair, and he does not do what he's told. He's the Steelers coach, he's the Lone Ranger, taking us to the Super Bowl. A decision for the ages, only Mike Tomlin could make. Hated and expert agreed that it would be a great mistake. Fans in the super trust with Bennett Sports and Steels. He gave the job to us and a team of Barrels. Oh! Here comes my coach, he's a Lone Ranger, making decisions on his own. He's my favorite coach, he's a Lone Ranger, securing the win for the black and gold. He does not care if the fans are fair, and he does not do what he's told. He's the Steelers coach, he's a Lone Ranger, taking us to the Super Bowl. Yeah, he's a Steelers coach, he's the Lone Ranger. Taking us to the Super Bowl. Taking us to the Super Bowl. Taking us to the Super Bowl. Oh, Joe, you sparked the dynasty, leading the charge in the Steel City. Face taken in 74. The Steel's name we can no longer ignore. Remember his name, remember his name. Ever since he Joe was ahead of the game. Tell Terry he don't need to play today. For 17 is gonna lead the way. And just don't worry about the running backs, and pull the trigger on the passing attack. Remember his name, remember his name. Jefferson Street Joe was ahead of the game. Remember his name, remember his name. Jefferson Street Joe was ahead of the game. Remember his name, remember his name. Jefferson Street Joe was ahead of the game. Just his name, remember his name. Jefferson Street Joe was ahead of the game. B94.
Sound the battle cry, boots on the field, yeah. We make some noise, we make noise. The black and gold swarms with a heart of steel, Tomlin's at the helm, and it's all so real, so real. 'Cause I'm watching, and I'm leading, and I'm winning. I'm with the team I'm rooting for. I'm strategizing, never quitting, black and yellow, flowing through my core.
not gonna worry about your level of concern.
Yoy and double yoy.
We talking about Twitter.
Triple yoy.
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Quadruple yoy.
I can't stop winning. I can't stop winning.
Mike Tomlin's got to be in Coach of the Year conversation.
We mock ourselves.
It's time for your hot and toxic Steelers takes. Welcome to a Tomlin redemption episode of what Jin's talking about. Tomlin haters need not apply, need not enter in. No shoes, no shirt, no confidence, no hope. No service. I'm Kyle Kreis. Across from me is Greg Benevent.
Hello.
Coming up today, the Steelers are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 74 team.
Yes.
One story that may not be getting the same amount of attention is that of quarterback Joe Gillum, who was Week 1 starter that season and threw for 600 passing yards in the first 2 weeks, but was ultimately replaced by the blonde bomber Terry Bradshaw, and in similar reflection of the 2024 season. So if you thought Justin Fields didn't get the fair shake of the stick, then wait till you hear about the story of Joe Gillum. I've got documentary filmmaker Dexter Rogers who made the doc on Joe Gillum. He says the NFL does not want this story getting out.
Oh.
So we'll have that. We'll get the story out. We'll have that in the second half. Want to welcome new subscriber Toby Steelers 316.
Hey.
I believe Toby Steelers 316 says, "I just blitzed your ass." That's my
I know who you meant.
Yeah.
I knew you meant Stone Cold. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my closest Stone Cold. All right. Enough caucus. It's time for the toxic and hot takes. There were even in a signature win.
Oh, jeez.
We've got the takes starting with, hold on. Come on, the tweet's going to, maybe because I need to airplay and not airdrop. Let's get to the hot and toxic takes. No, hold on. Wait,
Hey.
Let's get to the takes. Starting with, it's time for the Tomlin apology tour. We've got at Spoiled Steelers fan. Y'all owe Mike Tomlin an apology. Let it be loud AF too. Why is everyone y'all? Every week I feel like it's y'all instead of yins. Where are all these Steeler fans?
I think that's the kind of the price you pay for having a truly global fan base. There's plenty of Steelers fans in the South as well.
Yes, true. Apologies accepted. You're allowed
From
to
anywhere.
You're allowed to apologize to Mike Tomlin. You should have done this back in the Duck season. If you were a non-believer then that was 5 years ago now. So
yeah.
That's right. It's apology tour time. Let it continue with at Steel_QB, Steel QB. Mike Tomlin is smarter than everyone. Why did we ever doubt him? The guy who is watching women's tackle football on his time off or something. What was he? Isn't he watching
It was these guys in Eastern Pennsylvania that were broadcasting off of some dude's phone through YouTube. He called them goons, which is the phrase. But I mean, I keep seeing these tweets and I think how great this is, and I think, my word, am I so glad I didn't see these tweets, because I might have been tempted to click on them and then see just the absolute rage that would be beneath them.
Mike Tomlin gets my game ball.
Right, game ball. What did you think? You think he was going to sabotage this team? He's not playing George Pickens. He's not playing Justin Fields. He's not. What else is he not doing? But
losing.
Yeah, not losing. That's a fact. Not ever losing. Let's keep the apology tour going. At Play Maca BK, Bill Kelly. Coach T, you knew tonight. I was concerned with yo cray decision. Gonna give you credit for a gutsy decision. 4-2 team making a change. You wanted to see what you wanted to see. And it's the picture of the Lone Ranger.
Ah, right.
I guess we'll never know. Was he truly the Lone Ranger? I can't imagine that after claiming Russ was in the pole position, the 4-hour love fest meeting, yada yada, gold jacket talk, and all this.
Well, also just building an entire summer of building an offense around Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
and also I think just people. I had so many. Well, you and I talked about this. I had so many people mention that they were doing some kind of like deep analytical reading into Arthur Smith's press conference about that. Oh, secretly deep down he wants Justin Fields. What? How did you get that out of that? No, but Tomlin was the guy who was going to take the blame had this failed. So I think that in and of just that enough is enough to make Tomlin the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. But instead,
Mike Tomlin eat chicken wings.
Instead, Mike Tomlin is eating his chicken wings. Where are the apologies coming from? All angles. We've got. Oh, come on now. At the Pony Express, Andrew Filipponi, known troll. I'm gonna lay off Tomlin for a while. How long do you think people gonna until it's the first 3 and out on Monday, and then it's gonna be like, we should have put Kyle Allen in.
I mean, you beat me too because you said that exact message to me. I said, "How long is this gonna last?" And Kyle said, "Till the next 3 and out." But I mean, it's if you're looking for a break and want to go into something else, sure. There's a game the Steelers should win and then a bye. So if there's ever a time when even a professional top-tier troll like Filipponi was going to take a break on Tomlin, this is it, because just like the team, they have to conserve their resources for the second half.
Right, yeah. Believe me, there'll be plenty of AFC North trolling. It's funny how, we had Filipponi with the apology, ever since, what's his name, Colin... Dunlap went to Pittsburgh politics instead of sports. He doesn't even talk about the Steelers anymore.
Right.
So just goes to show you how really passionate these haters really are. I'm sure if Filipponi didn't have a radio job, he'd be out there. Who knows what he'd be tweeting about?
He'd probably be back in New York. Isn't he a Mets fan? He'd be watching the Jets and the Giants and the Mets and the Yanks. I mean, that's it's. I mean, but Kyle's point is so true because so much of what you see online, no matter how passionate it is and what kind of feelings it inspires in you, it's often just branding.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and now that the Pens are back, Mark Madden, I don't even think he had anything to say. He was the one who was actually rooting for Russ, and then it was like, oh, now that the Pens are back, we'll just...
And also now that Russ did well, that's not the trolling opinion anymore.
Right? Yeah, okay. More Tomlin takes. At Rock Steel, arm steeled rocks. Many fans and media pundits want Russell Wilson to fail as the quarterback because they want Mike Tomlin to fail. That, I think, is what the real point of all this hate was. They found a way to, another kink in Tomlin's armor with this decision, and then it didn't happen.
I would agree with that. I would agree there is a lot of that there. I wouldn't say that's solely exclusively. I think I was pleasantly surprised. I do believe this to be the case that there were some Steelers fans that didn't want Russell to be in there because they really had come to love Justin Fields. I mean, he's a lovable guy. Yeah. I mean, I think that unfortunately there were more of the fans you talked about than there were of the fans I talked about.
How about some stats? At John Ewing. In the Mike Tomlin era, Steelers are now 26-3. That's a 77% against the spread as home underdogs. So we kind of talked a little bit about the narrative that, Tomlin loses to inferior teams. Well, turns out that Tomlin has a winning record against under 500 teams at the, for that finished under 500 at the end of the season. Maybe he doesn't compare to Andy Reid or Sean McVay, but it's still a winning record. And here's another, when you win all the time, every season like Tomlin does, all these stats are going to come out winning. So you find out, home underdogs, he's 26-3. No surprises there.
Yes, and just to piggyback on that, I mean, I think this shows just in part how much success there's been in the last decade, more than a decade of Tomlin, that they've only been home underdogs 29 times. That's got to be, I mean, I'm sure the Patriots have done it less, but there can't be that many teams who have been home underdogs less than 29 times.
And against the Jets, like, why? I don't even understand how they were underdogs in this situation.
Well, I mean, it's easy to forget now, but I mean, the idea was that the Jets are desperate. Their entire season is hanging in the brink. They lost to the Bills, but they didn't look bad doing it. I mean, the Bills are a real contender team, and were thought so going into the season. Also, I think the Devontae Adams thing helped the casinos quite a bit. I think the sports books made out big on Devontae suiting up, even if it didn't turn out big for the Jets.
Yeah, well, it's like we got to stop counting them out.
When are we going to stop doing this to Mike Tomlin?
Stop it. You can't count them out. Are we going to be underdogs? We're obviously not against the Giants. I wonder how much, then we start to hit the rubber hits the road part of the season. Yeah. I wonder how much underdogs will be there. We have the same record as the Ravens. Right. I imagine in Baltimore we would be underdogs, but at home I can't. I imagine the 3-point for home team.
It'd be pretty close. That might even be like a pick 'em. They'll be underdogs to the Chiefs on Christmas Day. They'll be underdogs in Washington.
But not by much, right?
Not by much, and it's because that's coming right out of the bye, I think. Yeah. So they might be underdogs in Cincinnati, but it just depending on what the Bengals are doing at that point. But there's not many times should this strong play and health continue that they would be underdogs throughout the rest of the regular season.
Especially with this defense, you can't win games when you can't score. And so, okay, one more thing on Tomlin. At Mark Cabali, insider Mark Cabali. Mike Tomlin firmly in the conversation for Coach of the Year. I mean, okay, so we're 7 games in. I don't know if it's too soon to start talking about this, but we're already saying, TJ for Defensive Player of the Year.
Right.
So... And Tomlin's never won Coach of the Year?
I thought he did once, but I could be wrong. It's almost invariably who had a team that was bad last year that made them competitive this year. So, I don't even know the guy's name. What is it, Dan Quinn? I would assume the Commanders guy is the front runner right now. No, wait, I want to talk about the Minnesota guy, whose name I really don't know.
Sure.
So those guys probably got to be, but they do 3 finalists, so I would imagine Tomlin would be up there in terms of the finalists.
I don't know if they do a GM of the year, but, look at Omar Khan bringing in these quarterbacks, bringing in Patrick Queen, the trade, the Dante Jackson, that's turned into a big, Deshaun Elliott has turned into a big hit. So, I don't know if there's a, GM of the year.
There might be executive of the year, but who knows how they determine that. I can't even begin to guess how they would vote on such a thing. But if nothing else so far, Omar Khan has done a strong job. The Khan artist moniker has been well suited here in 2024.
Yeah.
That is a reasonable expectation.
Very reasonable. Okay, we can talk.
It's my quarterback.
Quarterbacks, starting with at DVE Bill Crawford. Bill Crawford. Russ is now the QB for the rest of the season. You throw a TD pass to Van Jefferson, the keys are yours. Right, and barring injury, and I can't see a scenario unless all of a sudden Russ just loses his touch all of a sudden,
or falls off a cliff. That can't happen with people of a certain age. I think you kind of maybe saw it a bit with Peyton. You certainly saw it with Brady. But Russ is younger than those guys. I think the group chat very much said how happy we were for Van Jefferson to catch this touchdown, not just for the team. Everyone says Van Jefferson's a good dude that works hard. And I like how they mentioned in passing, and his dad is the wide receiver coach for the Jets. Like, why didn't we get a shot of that? We could have done with one less shot of Justin Fields in a big coat. Like, just one, just to get that, just to see his dad after he scores a touchdown. I don't know.
Yeah, and then I saw the video after the game. He had his kid there, but yeah, there was no reunion with Grandpa. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know. It's kind of like Baker Mayfield with Mark Andrews. When the games are on, the feelings are off. I guess I don't know.
Could be.
Quarterback talk continues with at Thematic Poetry. Russell Wilson's arm is more of an X factor for the Steelers than Justin Fields' legs. Let a receiver get open and Russ get O-line protection. He's going to drop it right in their receiver's chest 95% of the time. I guess that's what we saw against the Jets. The narrative was going to be, Justin's legs are more important than Russ's arm, but I guess Russ's arm is it his arm or is it just above the neck?
Well, I think it's all of it. I think that's why Tomlin and the team went out, the team leaders went out and recruited a guy that's done this at a high level for so long, was that exact thing. Not a guy that would put it all together sometimes, but a guy that would consistently put it all together once he played his first quarter of football in like 10 months or whatever it was. I mean, we talked about, and a lot of other people that talked even more said it, that, hey, this might be the case that Russ's arm could be better than Justin's legs, and a lot of people looked out on that, but no, through at least 1 week, that certainly seemed to be the case.
Not that, I'm trying to think, Justin's arm wasn't necessarily the problem. A couple throws were maybe just outside the reach, but maybe the arc, the moon ball.
You never heard moon ball so many times in my life, even when I played the DuckTales video game as a kid. I think also that's part of it. I think Russ just might have, Justin throws a great ball, but Russ might have like genuinely very great touch.
The difference between good and great that Tomlin was talking about. Yeah.
Here's some thinking.
Noah 185-51733. Noah, good. Is he a Russian troll? Who knows? Everyone hear me out, Steelers fans. Russell Wilson to this Steelers team is like A.J. Burnett to the Pirates team. Guy in need of a career resurgence, team in need of veteran leadership. When I first saw this, I was like, or is he the Phil Kessel of the Steelers? But,
I think A.J.'s better now, because Kessel was a million things and exactly what that team needed. But man, Phil was no leader. God bless him, and I love Phil. But Phil was not leading anybody in anything unless it's to go play poker after the game. But one of the greatest wrist shots in the history of hockey. But I think AJ was a leader on and off the field. I mean, AJ took the Pirates image and made it something different than it was. And Russell could do that. Russell has a few fewer nipple rings and a lot less yelling at the other team. But AJ wasn't leading a Bible study of team players, let me tell you that. But he could very much be that kind of leadership. And especially because we've already started to kind of see it maybe in the way that Russell interacts with George.
Yeah, and I mean, just the way he still gave props to Justin Fields. Yes. I love that. Yes. They're both, they are. You can tell that it's not a rivalry.
That's a real relationship.
I don't think, it's like I'm trying to think. Do we have that with Kenny, Mitch, and Mason?
Well, Kenny and Mitch were friends. I mean, remember the photo at the weddings when they shared the I mean, those guys were really pals. That wasn't. But I don't know if it was that same kind of. I think it was more like, hey, we're hangout buddies versus like we're working on this together. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't obviously hanging out with any of them.
No.
But Kenny and those. I mean, how many times did you hear somebody say in the last 2 years, "Man, the quarterback room is really great," with the implication of, "Wow, it wasn't with Ben."
It's certainly not Ben and Mason.
Hopefully we never see that again. No. Yes.
Moving on to at real Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless. I can't tell if this is a knock or not. Russell Wilson doesn't look like he has a whole lot of arm left or a lot of quickness, and his accuracy comes and goes. But somehow the Steelers lead. Blah 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 blah. I guess there were some knocks. I mean.
I think the knock is maybe some of the passes were underthrown, but they still managed to get there anyway, such as George's miraculous pinball catch and even the one-handed grab by Muth. But I mean, but I would want to say in this context, we're talking about Skip Bayless. I mean, we talked about Filipponi being a professional troll. This is a national professional troll. Like, this is an apex troll who is paid to do this every day. So I'm sure this is trolling people we don't even know about. about. Like Jets fans or people that just like Aaron Rodgers online or whoever. Like I see this and I'm like, oh, he's making fun of a group I'm not even aware of.
This might be more of a Aaron Rodgers diss than a Russ Wilson.
I don't think this tweet's about the Steelers deep down. I really don't.
Even Colin Coward didn't have much to say bad. He was like, okay, I'm picking the Steelers. I mean, sure, it's the Giants, but even he, who has been anti-Tomlin for I don't know this millennia,
sometime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is there more criticism to Russell Wilson at Brian Badco? Russell Wilson passing chart versus the Jets. Great performance, but nothing in between the seams, so we got to bench him and fire the OC. Sorry, that's the rules. Here's the passing chart. If under Matt Canada, this would be the headline. It's nothing in the middle. Sure, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 completions beyond 15 yards. But, the narrative in the past 4 years has been, oh, nothing down the middle. Wow, this offense is junk. But when Russ does it, hey, no problem.
Well, I think the most telling stat here between this and the Canada offense is that little number that says TD2.
Yeah.
There was that happened once, right? Under Canada, if I was it twice. Under Canada's reign, that quarterback threw for multiple touchdowns in a game. So yeah, that changes things just a little bit. Plus, I mean, for the first, I don't want to speak for all the other fans, but geez, oh man, starting sometime early in the third quarter, I felt for the first time since 2021 that this team could score on any possession. Probably since that fourth quarter against Minnesota, where Ben almost brought them all the way back. This was the first time I'd felt that since then.
Right, that is correct, and they pretty much did. Did they score on 4 drives in the second half?
I think they scored on every drive in the second half. Yeah, one was a field goal, but the rest were touchdowns.
And there's still a lot of passes. There's still a lot of passes around the line of scrimmage. There's still 2, 4, 6, 8. There's a dozen passes within 5 yards or less of the line of scrimmage, which people said, oh, that's going to be the knock on Russ. But I don't, I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Well, also too, a lot of those catches, what you're not seeing is it was caught around the line of scrimmage, but then the dude was running. That one where Jalen Warren turned in the other direction was incredible. There were a few. Some of those short passes. Okay, the very first one to Darnell. There were a few of those to George and to Muth. It's not like the guy caught it and then there was a guy at his feet. He caught it and then he got a few more yards.
That Warren catch, that was as much of a turning point as the beanie, because that was a third down, right? That was a third
I think
long.
That was a third down, yeah. And he went short, and we would have heard endlessly about it if they'd lost. But no, Warren had real presence of mind to do that in the moment.
That kind of brings back this point by @SheScores_ that girl that do parlays. Was Russell Wilson a difference maker this game? We know the defense won us this game, but did Russell make any type of impact? You think of the great catches by Pickens, the great catch by Muth, the play by Warren there. Was it the other guys on the team that made Russell look good, or did Russell really have that X factor?
Well, I first I want to say both. I say Russ. I mean, if the other guys made Justin look good too, okay, well then the offense got to here. But if the other guys made Russell look that good, then okay, they were up to here. So Russell, by definitionally, had something to do with that. And I think this offense helped the defense tremendously. I mean, for me, we've been talking about turning points in this game, many of which seem to occur in the third quarter, but the one where Aaron decided, of course he did, to go for it on fourth down. Yeah. I'm thinking, geez, he's not doing this if this game's 18-15 or it's 13-16 or something. He feels it, just as we all do, that this offense is building momentum and the Jets have to keep pace. So now they have to do these things. And as soon as you have to do something, the Steelers defense also knows you have to do it too and can adjust accordingly.
And it kept them fresh. I was worried, after, what's his name, Breece Hall or whatever.
Breece Hall just bouncing off a dude.
The way he looked in that first half, I was like, oh no, if we tire out in the second, this is going to be this could be a long game. Didn't he beat us before? I feel like Hall had the game winner the last time we lost to the Jets.
That sounds about right. He's a good player. I mean, that's a good running back.
So yeah, the offense helped the defense in that particular way. Okay. All right. At Jordan Silveria. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Russell Wilson, but I'm not sure how much credit I'm supposed to give him for the F it, George Pickens is down there somewhere game plan right now. But I mean, no one said that about Ben when he was just throwing it to AB. Is it much different than that situation? I mean,
I can only go by the results. I mean, Fields didn't do that all this often. Now, was he allowed to? Was he not allowed to? Was he told, hey, don't do this? Is it just that Russell has better touch? I mean, what I will say is that, boy, that catch that George made in his right shoulder, the first deep one, that was right there. That guy was mugging him, and there was no way he was going to knock it away. I mean, sure, the other one bounces off the guy's head, okay, but also too, that guy never turns around to see that ball. That in any other era, that would have been pass interference, just because that guy never turns around. So, I mean, the idea of throwing it near George and make George make a play, I don't know. Mitch couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Kenny did it intermittently. Mason did it pretty well. So we're kind of seeing that maybe if you're a little bit better, more accurate passer, you can get away with this play, and perhaps that's the real takeaway.
Holding those balls in big moments.
Right? I mean, that used to be the game plan for Chase. It was like, we're going to give him 50-50 balls, and that's how we're going to win games, So
yes.
With Pickens, why not? We'll do it too. Anything to say about Justin Fields? Well, at Kyle Beagle. This is from Cavalli, actually. Steelers offense with Russell Wilson showed they didn't fully trust Justin Fields. Is that legitimate? I mean,
I think so.
They kind of played the Kenny ball with him. Just don't turn it over.
Turn it over, and if you run, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
If you decide to go for a run, Justin, that's all right. I mean, I thought that on that first drive when Russell got hit, I saw that hole open up, and I thought, wow, Justin's still be running. I mean, he turned it around, but I think that was when people really started tweeting angrily after that first Russell series ended, and everyone could see on TV because the hole was facing the same side the camera was that opened up. Hey, Tom.
Okay, how about for something ridiculous at the Steelers Wire. 5 teams most likely to trade for Justin Fields by November 5th. How quickly the tides turn. We went from Justin got ripped off from the starting QB to now, okay, let's trade him for a 6th and a 7th rounder or something. I mean, I guess the question is, even if Russ finishes out this season QB1, do you think Justin still has a role in the future?
I think everything we heard late in the summer was how much they liked both guys. I don't think anything's been determined yet. We've heard enough in the last week of people being like, we would have liked to keep Justin in there, that there has to at least be some sentiment to make Justin the guy in future years, because he has a lot more future years ahead of him than Russ does. So, I don't think they've decided yet, but I think they could absolutely could conceivably make Justin a long-term guy. I'm not sure I'd do it just yet after seeing Russell come in and light it up for this one game, but I might be in a better position to have an opinion on that once we get into December, sure.
I'm not going to soothe you with hypotheticals.
Right,
yeah,
save
exactly.
that for con season. Okay, how about a couple quick Arthur Smith takes? Is this even in Arthur Smith? At Faribaugh FB, Nick Faribaugh. A mind-blowing stat. In 3 years under Matt Canada, the Steelers had 0 400-yard games. In 7 under Arthur Smith, they have 2. I guess that speaks for itself, right there.
Yes, that, and also 5-2. Since I didn't even realize it. Others pointed it out. I mean, this is the crossroads the team was at last year when they lost that very tough Jacksonville game, where Kenny got hurt in that one too. And, so yeah, if they'd won that, they'd have been 5-2, and maybe last season as well as this season and the future goes very differently. So for them to get to this point really shows how this team is different than the ones we've seen previously.
Even when we were struggling at not Mike Tomlin, living with Tomlin, 13 points in the first half. Since you can't count it, I'll do it for you. That's the most the Steelers have scored all season in the first half. So everyone was like, bench Russ, bring out Justin. So we could do less then? What? I don't know,
Well, I think also too that this exact what people were complaining about gets back to what we were speaking about earlier about how the offense helped the defense. I mean, the defense was absolutely lights out in the second half, but they were not lights out in the first half. And the other guys are paid professionals. calls Aaron Rodgers first ballot Hall of Famer. That's totally understandable. But it was not looking as good for the defense either in the first half, and I think that contributed to folks' general frustration.
We don't talk a lot about Najee. So how about a quick at House of Berg 412 Bergie? If I were the Steelers front office right now, I could go against tradition and offer Najee 4 years, $40 million right now. It would make him the 6th highest paid running back. What we've seen in 6 games, how do you feel one way or another about a contract extension?
Oh, I feel better about Najee. I mean, I'm not the first person to point this out. For as good and as many yards and scores as he got in his first few years in the league, he wasn't doing like this, deke a guy out and keep running thing that he's done in the last few games. So, I mean, I think that might be an offer you might try to make him at the end of the season, should this continue. But someone else could totally blow you out of the water then, and if that happens, that's fine. Good for Najee.
I think he's on pace for 1,200 yards, which we haven't seen at least since his rookie year. So.
Absolutely, and Jalen's certainly going to be a strong contributor as well, which, of course, makes Najee a better back.
Let's talk receivers at Nyhoff, JM Nyhoff. Steelers still need to find number 2 wideout. That position is weak. Russ did get Van Jefferson the ball. He got Calvin Austin the ball. He got Washington the ball. Don't think Connor
Hayward was the one. I don't remember. But, I mean, this game was a lot of, people can feel vindicated across many different platforms about this game. How many people said, there were guys that were open that Justin was missing? And then I think it was the fourth quarter where Russ threw to Calvin Austin and there was nobody in the shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the Jets brought a blitz, but geez, oh man.
Good eyes, and that's one of the criticisms that Justin had, right? He wasn't finding open guys or whatnot. So, how about where are we? Oh, little con season, because of course there's another wideout on the trading block at Jack Sperry. Jack Sperry, favorite YouTuber. Here's 6 minutes of reasons why the Steelers should trade for Cooper Kupp. It was 6 minutes of highlights. This kind of move doesn't come without its risks, but these are the type of moves you make if you want to win championships. Get it done, Omar. Missed out on Ayuk. He's out for the season. Missed out on
Nuke. Deontay Hopkins. I just like saying the name Nuke.
Okay.
That name corrects me.
Missed out on Devontae Adams. Missed out on Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know. I'm almost at the position where I don't know if we're going to add anyone to the room.
Yeah, I mean, I everyone seems to say Mike Williams for a 7th, and I'm like, that sounds like the right amount of investment. I mean, not to promote other people's podcasts, but Alan Saunders had a wonderful one explaining why Cooper Kupp's a great player, but maybe not the best fit for the Steelers. And he brought out a whiteboard. And if Kyle and I ever bring out a whiteboard, you're watching the wrong podcast.
Oh, we'll go full Glenn Beck and bring out the. I got one somewhere, I think.
But we're never diagramming plays here, folks. That's not how this podcast works.
Bring on Haji for okay, let's talk big boys for a minute. Nope, that's not it.
There's some big boys.
At All Steelers FN, All Steelers. The Steelers can't afford to lose Dan Moore Jr. next summer. Whoa, I thought I was the only I was the only Dan Moore fan for the past 3 years. Now we can't afford to lose him. I
don't think they can afford him. I think he's going to get too much money. I don't think they're going to franchise him, but someone's going to throw. I bet he gets more than the Chooks package.
Yeah, I think so. The Chooks, I would be fine giving him that contract. What was it, $10 million or $13? I can't even remember.
It was some. If it wasn't that, it was somewhere in there. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think they're going to, and they'll have Daniels off the books because I think Mason McCormick has shown he's going to be the starter at guard moving forward for the next few years. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to have money to throw at someone or something, probably a lot of someones and some things. So, I mean, a lot of that's going to go to a quarterback, whoever it is. But yeah, there's got to be some money left over for somebody. I don't know. Maybe Broderick gets it together. Maybe Fautanu heals up. Maybe he doesn't. So, yeah, I certainly wouldn't close the door on Dan Moore Jr., but I imagine, as we've said for months now, Dan Moore Jr. is going to be okay. He's okay right now, but he's going to be okay in the future, too.
You wouldn't consider tagging maybe just to get that 1 year, one more year?
The tag is so high for a tackle. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, it's, you're paying it's almost quarterback money.
Okay, well, why don't we take a break and then come back with Dexter Rogers and the story of Joe Gillum and the 1974 team, and then we'll talk some defense and anything else. Maybe we'll talk about the Dangerous sandwich now at Primanti's. Okay, that's coming up in the second half. We'll be right back.
Did you bring the peanuts, pretzels, popcorn? Did you bring the burgers? Where's the beer? Did you bring the ketchup, mustard, pickles? Did you bring the pumper?
Yeah, it's here.
Did you bring the icy light Iron City pumper?
Can't forget the pumper.
One of each.
Did you bring the ice to chill the pumper?
Yeah. When you want a cold one, just reach. Have a picnic, have a party, call the people, tap the pumper, have a pumper party. Did you bring the pumper? Did you bring the pumper? Did you bring the pumper? Yeah.
All right, welcome back. So Sunday night, the Steelers celebrated the 50th anniversary of the 1974 Super Bowl team, which did have some reflections on the 2024 team because the starting quarterback was replaced after 6 games, just like in 74. Back then, it was Jefferson Street Joe Gillum. And joining me now, the man who made the documentary about Joe Gillum, What Could Have Been But Never Was, Dexter Rogers. Welcome to What Jin's Talking About.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
I've been fascinated with this story. So Gilliam was drafted in the 11th round back in 72. Now, my understanding is Bill Nunn convinced Noll to pick him. How was Gilliam's skill set different from what the team already had in Bradshaw at that time?
Well, they were very similar in terms of talent, particularly arm strength. Joe had a quicker release. The one glaring difference between the two was the physical stature. Joe was very slender in his build. He was mobile, but he wasn't a runner compared to Terry Bradshaw, who was bigger and stronger and could run the ball a little more effectively than Joe. But Joe was a prototypical pocket passer, and Terry was a little bit versatile with respect to being able to run.
Noll made Gilliam the starter before week 1 back in 74. Now, the narrative was this was possible because of a player strike. Bradshaw honored the picket line, Gilliam crossed and reported to camp. How much did the strike play in Noll's decision?
It played zero role in the decision. I have Noll quoted in the documentary. I have a extensive hour and 21-minute version where I've interviewed a plethora of players, and we spoke specifically regarding that. Joe simply went to training camp and beat out everybody. You have certain writers like Roy Blount and others who try to change the narrative, at least in part because Joe was black. So you have to look at the societal conditions as they persisted in 1974. That's just 6 years after Martin Luther King was assassinated. You had the boycott in the 1968 Olympics in October. Arthur Ashe was the first black man to win a U.S. Open tennis tournament. So that's just 6 years removed from some major things that took place in society and sports with respect to race. So you have a black quarterback in Joe Gillum supplanting a white #1 overall draft pick who couldn't get the job done. Secondly, you have to look at the media composition. There weren't a lot of people who looked like me who were writing these stories to put out these narratives. So when you couple the societal conditions and the lack of diversity in the media, it fostered a negative climate and environment for such narratives to persist.
He comes out of the gate. At that era, you never saw 300-yard passing games. Gilliam comes out of the gate 600 yards in the first 2 games. The week 2 game ends in a tie. Gilliam had a fourth quarter fumble. He had a interception in overtime. But you can't really. He brought him back from 21-7. You can't really blame him on that tie, right? Is that right?
No, you can't. And also, what's missing in that, based on my research, in regulation, Roy Jarrella had a 39-yard field goal to win it in regulation, and he missed it. So he really should have won the game.
Yeah. And now one of the narratives is that Gilliam is benched because he was throwing too much and Noll wanted to run it more. Although if you look at the 6 games he started, the Steelers were averaging 37 rushes per game. I think when Terry went in, it went up to like 41, but that still wasn't super significant. Is that a fair criticism toward Gilliam, that they just weren't running the ball enough?
No, again, it's a narrative. It's a narrative that the media projects to protect the media that they want everybody to embrace. The bottom line is this. As you just said, they didn't run the ball significantly more with when Bradshaw took over the job. But more importantly, you had a 6-game preseason and you had a 6-7 game sample size in the regular season. Why would Noll give him the job if he thought Joe threw the ball too much? He was throwing it the same amount in preseason. So when you look at the facts, that narrative just doesn't stand up.
Week 3, the Steelers are shut out by the Raiders. And I think that's when Gilliam says he first snorted heroin as a painkiller. Later in life, they kind of use the drug use as a reason why. But, people don't become junkies on their first hit. In 74 specifically, is it fair to say that drugs were a factor yet?
Yes, they were a factor, but it wasn't. Again, it's this word narrative. A lot of people were writing stories back then. They tried to disseminate the message that he was just a junkie and Joe liked to party and he got mixed up with the wrong crowd and it affected his play. That wasn't it at all. After that Raiders defeat, Joe was like beat up. I mean, they had guys like Otis Sixrump. They had guys in my front line, in the Hall of Fame, and Joe was slender in his build, and they really beat him up. And back in those days, as you know, if you didn't practice, you didn't play. All right? You're the first black quarterback to open up a season. You got Terry Bradshaw waiting in the wings, and you have white Steeler fans clamoring for his return. In the meantime, Joe is experiencing a lot of turmoil in terms of racism. He's getting hate mail, tons of hate mail from fans. It got so bad that he even had to move his family from Pittsburgh back to Nashville, due to the scrutiny that he's receiving. So on top of all of that stuff off the field, now he's banged up on the field, and he know if he doesn't practice, he's not going to play. So he met a guy, happened to be at a party, said, hey, man, you can take this stuff, you'll be able to play, but you got to be careful with it. And he took it, and he was able to continue on a couple games. But then after the benching, then that's where the depression kicked in. He worked so hard to get something, and it was taken away from him, not so much because of his play, because you don't sit a guy on the bench that was playing as well as he was, and the team was winning. So that's the truth, of the situation.
Is there a double standard? Steroids seem to be, maybe not an accepted part, but certainly more open in that era. Is there a double standard? You had players, on steroids compared to maybe the stigma of something like heroin.
That's somewhat valid, particularly in baseball. Like a multitude of players got caught taking it. And but when you hear steroids, the poster boy is Barry Bonds, though. Why not Mark McGwire? There's a lot of other players, who were white who took steroids, but they're not the poster boy. If you look at all of sports, look at Lance Armstrong. He lied. He had this non-for-profit. He was the poster boy. Everyone loved him, but he turned out to be a liar and a cheat. You don't even hear his name. So again, a lot of these stories are reinforced by a media that's largely ran by white males who control the narratives that are disseminated, because a lot of people do not take the time to exercise their own due diligence and do their own research like I do. So I just tell the truth. Like, I'm not trying to satisfy an agenda or a narrative. I just look at things for what they are. I establish what the actual facts are, and I put those out there. And then when I'm asked, I will give my opinion, but based on those facts, not some faulty narrative with an agenda.
They were from week one, fans were, booing or calling for Gilliam to be replaced. I think Myron Cope said a lot of the criticisms from his callers, even in the early part of the season, were race-based. Noll even said that the team would be better off playing on the road because of some of the response from the fans. I think Bradshaw had the most damning quote when he said, the league, the coaching staff, the fans, and the media did not want this to happen. I can understand the ignorance from fans and media, but inside the clubhouse, was race, do you think, a big part of that decision?
Yeah, race played a part of it. Race plays a part in everything, plays a part in everything today. When you the first one to go through the brick wall, you the one that gets the bloodiest. But as more people go through the wall, the hole gets bigger and it gets easier for people to follow. He was a pioneer. He was the first to do something. So obviously, he's going to take the most scrutiny and criticism, for it. And race played a factor. Again, he took a job away from a white, blonde, blue-eyed #1 draft pick who couldn't cut it. And the media tried to create a narrative to water the fact down. And this came out of Bradshaw's mouth, not my mouth. Bradshaw said, hands down, that Joe was a better quarterback than him that year, and he beat him out fair and square. So the rest of the stuff doesn't even matter to me.
Why was the fan? But I look at someone like Franco, who the fan base embraced. The Italian army. Although you look at Franco, and he's not Tony Soprano. So why is someone like Gilliam the subject of hatred? Is it the quarterback position? Is that the difference there?
Yes, the quarterback position is an extension of the coach. The coach is in a leadership position. The president of the United States is in a leadership position. The CEO, Jeff Bezos, he's in a leadership position. So anytime you have someone who is black and on top of that making history and you're in a leadership position, people are going to poke holes in that and look for something wrong to derail that person's ambitions and try to prevent them from their success. That's just how it works. And it still works that way today.
So Bradshaw replaces Gilliam in Week 7, but the quarterback play didn't improve. Gilliam and Bradshaw both had a 45.3 completion percentage, both threw 8 interceptions. They practically had the same QB rating. Do you think it ultimately would have mattered who was behind center that year? If he would have finished out the season, they still would have had the same results?
I can agree with that to a certain degree. But I look at the dubious circumstances in which Joe had his job taken away from him. He was going through a lot of pressure off the field due to the color of his skin. Terry Bradshaw was experiencing pressure too, but it wasn't because of his color of his skin. It was because of his poor play. That's a whole different dynamic, right? So when you look at the fact that he was the first to do something and he was black, just think about how well he had to play to beat Bradshaw out fair and square. Think about that. It wasn't like the deck wasn't stacked against him. The deck was stacked against him, and not only did he meet the deck, he exceeded the deck. And he played exceptionally well. He only lost one game, tied another, and then he was hooked on drugs and still winning. Think about that for a second. But they still took it from him. And they gave it to the white man. So, I think both were capable of winning the Super Bowl. But that first Super Bowl, what disturbs me the most is Joe was the initial catalyst. He the one they gave the keys to, and he was the initial driver of that car. And what pisses me off about it is that no one even brings up his name. They don't even talk about it. You know why? I'm just going to tell the truth. The NFL doesn't want this story out. They don't want my documentary out because the Rooneys are one of the most respected families in all of sports, but they ain't do a damn thing to help them. And if that was Bradshaw that needed help, they would have helped Bradshaw. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's just cut right to it. That's part of the reason why I've done this story. I've met with HBO, ESPN. I've got various versions of No. So to get those type of meanings, obviously the story is very relevant. But one thing I refuse as an artist, I'm not going to water my work down to cater, to the higher ups. My obligation is to tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. And I've been working on this, for a decade now. It took me a long time to get the finished version done. And I went through a lot of obstacles. And I'm still fighting to get this worthy project out. But I'll fight the NFL, Pittsburgh, whoever. But this man deserves to have his story told, but it deserves to be disseminated on a large platform because what he did was outstanding. And it's a shame that they don't even mention this man's name.
He did get one chance. He did come back for the 25th anniversary of the team, right? And I believe, I think guys like Franco and Rocky Blyer, it seemed that they had his back, at least at that time. But when the chips were down, you're saying that that no one was there for him.
No. Quick story. I interviewed Rocky Blyer, and he happened to be Joe's best friend on the team, and their lockers were right next to each other. And the day before Joe passed away, he called Rocky, and Rocky said he saw the phone ring and it was kind of late. And he said, I'll just call him back in the morning because he was getting ready for bed. And he got a phone call from Joe's number again, and it was from a family member. And they notified him that Joe had passed away. And that really, bothered Rocky. And he understood the racial dynamic over time about the pressures that he was under being a black starting quarterback. But in that moment, he personally didn't really think of it like that. He just thought that he was just the best quarterback for the job. But as he removed himself over time and looked back and reflected that he just couldn't imagine the amount of pressure that Joe was under, during that time period. So it's a lot of untold stories that I have in the full-length documentary, that'll be shocking to a lot of people, especially the admissions from Bradshaw. People don't want to hear that, but it's the truth.
How should we redefine Gillum's legacy in that 74 season today? Is it the story of a fan base who couldn't see past their prejudice? Is it a story of the league and a coach not ready to, embrace the player's talents? How do we look at it today?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think it should be. But first, I'm going to say this. Gillum's story represents the missing pages from the Steelers' glorious past, first and foremost. Until you insert those pages and what he did in that 74 season and prior to that and being a trailblazer, their stories continues to be, in my eyes, incomplete. Second, with respect to Noll, I have a lot of respect for him because Joe performed exceptionally well, and he gave him an opportunity. If he didn't have the talent and couldn't get it done, and with him being a black quarterback, he had to play exceptionally well to start over a number one draft pick who was white. Okay, so the rest of the things with regards to the Rooney family, I've been in contact with them directly. They don't want to speak, on the matter publicly, which I respect. I respect the fact that they did issue a statement. It's in the documentary. And as far as the media coverage of it, and more specifically the NFL doesn't want to see this project out because, one, I'm telling the truth, and some of those truths are very uncomfortable for the NFL to deal with, for the Rooney family to deal with, and the Steelers organization to do with it. Because I'm filling in those missing pages of Joel's story, and people don't continue to refuse to acknowledge them. But I'm going to keep knocking on the door until somebody open it.
Well, you can watch the teaser of Joe Gillum, What Could Have Been But Never Was. That's on your YouTube page. We'll be looking forward to the full length, as soon as we can with that. So I appreciate, Dexter, you taking the time to talk with me today.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it. And if you need anything else from me, reach out. I got your back.
Very cool.
Yes.
Now, I want to say that I did reach out to Steelers PR, Bert Lawton, to get a response like, oh, did the Rooneys really not do anything to help Gilliam when he was in the throes of addiction? And of course, he didn't respond. So,
right.
But I wanted to give him a chance. I thought that would be fair.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I might pick up a number 17 Gilliam jersey just because it was just because I don't know. I mean, I buy them from overseas for $30.
I was trying to think who was the last one. Eli, I think, had who was the last guy to wear 17?
Not Eli Apple, Eli Rogers, right?
Yeah. Wasn't it Eli Rogers?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, why don't we talk defense? The tweet from @Brogan Noe. Can't wait to see the reaction from non-Steelers fans when Deshaun Elliott is named All-Pro at the end of the year. I don't know about All-Pro, but maybe Pro. Was he Pro Bowl quality?
He's playing like it. I mean, it's the defense is working in such a way that he's getting the splashy, big-looking, exciting plays where Minka isn't having to do them.
Yeah, he's playing well against the run. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily. I don't think he's gotten a pick or has he?
But he has one pick. He has in the Atlanta game. But I think that's just it though. Whoever, if it's not Deshaun Elliott, who's going to be the safeties in the Pro Bowl or All Pro, are guys we probably haven't even heard of, other than Kyle Hamilton, who probably have a lot of interceptions or fumble returns or some big highlight where they pick up the ball and run it 60 yards or something.
What do you want to do? You know, we've got in another week, we've got Cam Sutton coming back now, but all of a sudden Beanie Bishop has had a career game. I mean, 6 games of his career, but Donta Jackson might be hurt, but he might be back. He's not on the injury report. So
Tomlin doesn't even talk about Corey Trice. We don't know where that injury is. They called up that Henderson guy who was a big draft pick that busted with Jags to be on the active roster from the practice squad. I don't know. I mean, it seems like, if nothing else, the emergence of Beanie has made it for Cam Sutton, the Tomlin's O-line, about getting on a moving train. Like, that could kind of ease that transition, perhaps.
He must be. I mean, he can't be. He's not like he's not preparing or anything.
He's in. I think he was able to go to meetings once the season started or after the first 4 weeks or something like that. I forget how this whole suspension thing works.
Yeah, but now that room is pretty crowded. I mean, I would think that, in the preseason, they only played Sutton in the dime. Mm-hmm. But now they've even got Terrell Edmonds in that. So, I mean, there's some decisions. Do you think that Beanie has played Cam Sutton out of his roster spot?
I don't think. I think we're at Justin and Russ in a minor key. I think Tomlin wants to see what Sutton can do, and also because proven experience. He's proven it to Tomlin.
And above the neck. Yeah, Beanie had a great game, but the difference between good and great. Again, we come back to that
exactly. And while Beanie is improving, I mean, like all rookies, there's going to be downsides too. I mean, I think that's a big part of what happened in that first half, or certainly the first quarter, where the offense wasn't moving. Okay, well, a lot of those young offensive lineman guys didn't know what to do with Quentin Williams until all of a sudden by the second half they did.
Let's keep this narrative going. At Jared Cat PA, Jared Kroll, I think Minka has just been straight bad this year, to be honest. I mean, there hasn't been splash plays from him necessarily. Besides, but again, man, if he knocks that ball out of Dax when he does that sneak, a couple weeks ago, all of a sudden it's Minka doing Minka
magic.
So I don't know. He's making tackles. The times he's getting burnt, it seems like miscommunication somewhere. But I can't say he's just been straight bad.
No, I can't either, and in large part because I don't fully know the Steelers' defense. What I do know is the Steelers' defense has been very good, and I imagine a player with his reputation, with his instincts, impacts the defense in ways that you're not necessarily going to see, in that he makes the quarterback not make that decision, not force that throw, not do that thing, which leads to something else good for the team. So I think they're quite content with Minka and how this is going so far.
Yeah.
I laugh at that.
Same here. It's like, it's Minka. You wouldn't say that about Well, I guess I was gonna say you wouldn't say that about Cam. Last year, people were saying that
They were
about Cam.
definitely saying that about Cam. Yes.
More defense. Oh yeah, you would think that the hate. You would think the Terrell Austin hate would be over. No, MP Frazier, Mike Frazier. This is why I think Terrell Austin is a bad defensive coordinator. He demands that the front seven win with a 4-man rush, but doesn't have a creative bone in his body to scheme up ways to make that 4-man rush effective. The fact that Watt tied the league sack record while coming from the same place every single time shows just how dominant of a player he is. Blah, 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 blah. I don't remember Dick LeBeau moving James Harrison all over the left to right, and I don't remember, I don't remember that.
I think a lot of this defense is predicated on the idea of like having more than just one guy. I mean, if TJ's taking up 2 and 3 guys, that's a win for the defense. Someone else is going to be positioned to make a play, like Alex Highsmith, who spent a lot of this game harassing Aaron Rodgers. It's sure that the team didn't get a lot of sacks. Well, of course they did. Rodgers was getting the ball out that fast. That was the whole point. Rodgers is legendary, and deservedly so, as his accuracy is, wasn't able to really make all the accurate throws that he wanted because there was a dude in his face. It just so happened that that dude was rarely TJ Watt.
And the minute we start blitzing, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, why are they putting Peyton Wilson man on man with Devontae Adams?"
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes.
Why is Beanie Bishop cover? That's going to be. Hey, we rush 4 with TJ and Highsmith. Why do you need to blitz?
That's the entire point of having those two guys is that you don't have to blitz unless you really have to. Yeah.
And people don't know these schemes.
I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it.
Right? I don't want to know what the ingredients of the hot dog
Nitrate power.
Well, wait. I guess before we move on, we had a renegade. Technically, Benton had his 4th down stop where he knocked down the pass.
Yeah.
But the Jets got 2 first downs on the renegade drive. I don't know if that's technically a renegade win or not.
It is. It ended in a turnover.
Okay.
The other team didn't score, and the Steelers got the ball. I mean, it doesn't have to be 3 downs and out. We're not raising the expectations for Renegade 2. We do that enough on the players. We don't have to do that on a song.
All right, so Renegade is technically 3-0 then, although no 3 and outs, no turnovers. Well, but we'll consider that a fourth
down stop is a turnover. What happened at the end of the play? The Steelers had the ball. That's a turnover. Okay. That's it's. I mean, I understand the argument. 4th down, no turnover. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm not overly concerned about all that little cute minutia.
Right, no cute minutia on the Renegades. All right. Well, I think that the band is trying to get on the field. 3-0, a Renegade.
4th down.
We won't see Renegade until what? The Ravens game next?
It's going to be a month at least. Yeah.
All right. So fire up your iPods. That's the only way to. All right. A couple odds and ends here, starting with. Oh, where'd you go?
Well, I bet they play it at the Giants game. I mean, it's.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's home? That's right. That's home.
Yeah.
You're right. Take that back, Your Honor. Okay, at Pittsburgh PG, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Joe Starkey says these Steelers look like a complete team and a legitimate threat in the AFC. Is it too early to, 2 weeks or last week we were not ready to call them a contender or not contender yet, but now here we are at 5-2. Best offensive performance in 4 years. Not technically not tied with the Ravens, but tied with the Ravens.
I mean, I think that's right. I mean, they looked like a complete team, and they do seem like a legitimate threat. I mean, who are the threats in the AFC? You got the Chiefs, the Texans, the Bills, the Ravens. Okay, so...
And then it would be the Steelers.
Yeah, I have no problem with the Steelers being the top 5 or 6 teams in this conference. I think that's very legit so far. That's certainly subject to change over the next 9 weeks. But yeah, I don't think that's at all crazy to say so far. No.
Is it, it's like, what's it going to take to win this division? I think we're going to have to beat the Ravens twice. So, it feels like that's what the pace of this, if you'd have said 5-2, it'd been like, yeah, in the driver's seat. Now I'm thinking, oh man, we're going to have to be 13-3.
Well, because the Ravens continually get better. I mean, they started rough, but they've turned things around. And also, as we've seen in the last several years, the Ravens do very well against teams that are not the Steelers. So I'm not looking ahead to think, okay, they have to beat them twice, but boy, that would help.
And I think we can. I mean, why not? Why ask why? Try Bud Dry. Okay. The tweet is from @Alex_Kazora. Alex Kazora. LC Greenwood and Andy Russell eliminated from Hall of Fame contention, failed to make the list of 31 senior nominees. I was kind of surprised. I thought LC would at least, make it. I thought LC would at least make it past this round. And
yes.
I wasn't certain if he would have been one of the top three out of, 289 qualifiers, but not interested, I guess, in LC Greenwood.
I was surprised. Yeah, I know a lot of other Pittsburgh sports media people that are much older than me that saw LC play were very upset about this. I think there were a lot of folks, which leads me to believe on some level that, I think the team was upset too. Whoever they talked to at the franchise was also upset about that as well, that maybe they'd thought, hey, this is a year, it all comes together, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they're saving it for the when Ben gets in and we do a big Yinzer thing over there in Canton.
That wouldn't be dumb. That'd be kind of smart. Now, former QB coach Ken Anderson, Cincy quarterback, he did move on in this senior selection.
I guess I just assumed he was already in the Hall of Fame. I've never seen Ken Anderson's stats, but he wouldn't be a Super Bowl champion, so that would be a little tougher.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is kind of like the ringless wonders or something. Like if that's kind of part of the decision making.
It's such a weird process. If you ever looked into it, how they pick guys to the Hall of Fame, it's always like who prepares the best book report and manages to sway guys at like student Congress. It's a terribly corrupt and inefficient system, but yeah. So I can't really speak to how it happened, but I do know that a lot of people that seem to know what they're talking about in and around Pittsburgh sports media seemed surprised to the point of being angry about LC not moving on.
But on the other hand, as far as current players, Hines, Harrison, and Gary Anderson are all still in consideration. I think that they're at the round of 25 now.
Okay,
so.
And it goes to what, 7, right? Or 6?
Something like that.
Okay, that's tough, but I mean, it's, every year a different person says, hey, it's not impossible. Harrison could get in, or hey, Hines has a chance after all. So we'll see.
I keep thinking, if Hines is having a hard time getting in, no way Harrison is. But maybe people see differently.
Yeah, and it's because I say they both have highlights on the biggest stage. I mean, it's so that's not it. But Harrison's defensive player of the year thing helps. But the Harrison argument's the Kurt Warner or Terrell Davis one. Guy didn't play that many years, but some of the years he did were the best years ever.
Yeah, and I wonder how much story, plays into it, as he was undrafted and he was cut this many times and then yada, yada. I don't know how much that plays into the, I don't know.
It depends on what kind of book report Dale Lawley puts together when it counts.
Okay, one last thing from @Primani Brothers. Primani Brothers. He cooked, we cooked. The Danger Russ is now available.
Wow.
Pepperoni, salami, ham, and bacon. With provolone, fries, slaw, and tomato. $1 sold goes to Children's Hospital.
Well, the first thing, Kyle did not mean to cough after he described all the meats in the sandwich. That was just a very fortuitous accident, folks. I mean, you get your daily amount of protein with the Danger Russ. There's no doubt.
I mean, ham and bacon. I mean, I guess you could say salami, ham, and bacon. Why so much pork in this? But is Russ a pork? I don't know. Is there something to that?
I don't know. I kind of wondered if the Danger Russ is sort of like the Scrapple sandwich. Like, hey, this is a lot of stuff we had, and go Russ, go Steelers.
Well, I had my attorney reached out and already has one, and he says that it's good. So.
Oh, okay. I'm sure it's delicious.
I would get it without. I'm sorry, I'm not a slaw guy. I know that's sacrilege.
I am 100% with you. If I were to have this thing, I would not have a slaw. Even when I was eating Primani Brothers sandwich in a different lifetime, I would take the slaw off. I'd do it meticulously and right in the face of some Yinzer as I did it.
Plus, the slaw doesn't do well for leftovers. I can leave half a sandwich in my car overnight, but not with the slaw on it.
No, if there's nothing we learned from Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's that slaw does not travel.
Yeah. Slaw is for losers, just like stats. Stats and slaw are for losers.
Hot takes at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Take that, Yinzers. You don't have to apologize for Tomlin. I'm not apologizing for the slaw.
Standing on business.
Okay, I think that's what we've been talking about.
That's what we've been talking about.
Keep your iTunes reviews coming in. I know that you haven't been sending them, so now is the time. Give us an iTunes review.
Those ones in drafts. Get them on.
Yeah, I know it's been sitting there. You've been waiting to do it. We sent out the September prize for Victor. No, not Victor. It was I'm forgetting the name up in Harvard, but
okay.
I know Victor is in the running for October. So get your iTunes review in, subscribe on YouTube, leave a comment, or tell a friend, or I don't know. You want to post about it somewhere on your favorite social media? I'm on TikTok and Twitter and at Kyle Kreis. Greg, we know we can find you somewhere.
Alas, you can find me on Instagram at Greg Benevent, B as in boy, E-N-E, V as in Victor, E-N-T.
Big thanks to Dexter Rogers for talking Joe Gillum with us. Check out his the teaser to his big doc on YouTube. We'll put a link in the show notes. Otherwise, we'll be back next week after a great Monday night game. Woo. All right. Keep listening to your apology-ridden coach.
Be their best selves. That's going to be required.
Stay in school.